Welcome to the Pitch Analytics preview show. This week focused on the Manchester Derby preview. I'm Paulie Pitch. This is Andre. We are Pitch Analytics. Welcome. Today we're going to focus first on the last time these two teams met, take a look at what happened. Then we'll focus on each of the teams and where they are today. Finally, we'll wrap up with the predictions, our predictions for the Derby match. I'll pass it off now to Andre.
All right, let's jump into it. So the last time these teams met, it was September. It was after the first international break. Both teams had started the season not so well, and Manchester United lost 3-0. But what we'll take a look at here is while the score line, it looks like they did pretty poorly, they actually didn't play that bad. When we look at the expected goals when they first played, Manchester United had 2.3. Manchester United had 1.5. Now, the key here is going to be looking at the 1.1 on target for Man City versus the 0.1 on target for Manchester United. It's a story of just horrific finishing. When we take a look at the shot maps and seeing where Man City were shooting from and where United were shooting from, they actually had the same number of shots at 11. But as you can see, City were all over the middle of the box, shooting right around the penalty area, almost like the 3-point line inside the 18. United, everywhere, shooting inside the box, outside the box, and ultimately just none of those shots ending up where they needed to be. Of the 11 shots, they had only 2 of them hit the target, which means if we look at this, if they had a little bit better finishing, maybe that 3-0 scoreline is inflated a little bit in terms of how Man City and Man United played. When we look at the two of them in terms of how they were passing throughout the match, City building up through that 4-3-3 patented by Pep, and then United under Amorim back then was in that 3-4-3. These possession stats are really interesting, though, when we look at them. Manchester City had 373 passes during the match. Man United actually had 406. Surprising stat to me that Man United controlled the possession of the match. Actually, when we look at the possession time, Man City was around 21 minutes of possession time. United was around 25 minutes. They had almost the same exact number of key passes, which means that United was actually doing a decent job of stopping that buildup, making them stay towards the middle of the field, making them continuously pass throughout the back. Now, if they can go back to that, understand what worked, and finish their chances this time, maybe this will be a little bit of a closer game than the 3-0 that happened back in September. Now let's take a look at how United's been playing the last couple of weeks.
All right, so let's take a look now at United amid all the chaos of their manager situation.
What's actually happening is they're massively, I would say, underperforming. If we look at the last couple of weeks of performance, the green line represents the expected goals that they have, and the red line represents the expected goals against. What you can see is that they've won almost every single battle for the last 6 or 7 games or so. They haven't been dramatically outchanced, but they haven't been winning when they should be. They've been drawing most of the time, and they just haven't been able to make up the points. So they actually really aren't playing that poorly recently. As you can see, the last game that happened against Burnley, they played really well against Burnley. They had 3.2 XG and only conceded 0.19. Really unlucky with the own goal that happened. They arguably should have demolished them in this game. Once again, another story of really poor finishing. And that's been the theme of United's season so far. They've been one of the best creators. They're third in the league in terms of expected goals for, but just horrific finishing. So let's look at how they've been playing after the change from Amorim to Fletcher. So we look on the left, this is the last game of Amorim when they played Leeds, and the right is when they played Burnley under Fletcher. Under Amorim, you've got those 5 guys in the back, Shaw, Martinez, Aiden Heaven, Yoro, and Diego Joel. A lot of build-up right through the middle of the field. A little bit less possession, trying to really force their way through the middle as much as they can. Under Fletcher, completely different system. We're now going with 4 in the back now. Shaw, Martinez, Heaven, and Bello. Very dramatic, as you can see, the change in the passing map between the two different managers. The only thing I will say is with Brian and Bumo out at the African Cup of Nations right now, right-handed flank looks a little bit empty under Fletcher. I suspect when he's back, this pass map will look very similar to what a 4-2-3-1 build-up would look like. And we'll have to see if this continues under Carrick for the Manchester City game. Now, what's the main difference between Amorim and Fletcher? It's the shooting. It's the number of chances. It dramatically outchanced with Fletcher than they did with Amorim. With Amorim, a lot of shots centrally, not necessarily in the box. With Fletcher, a lot of penetration into the middle of the box, really shooting from where the high danger areas are, right around that penalty spot. Look how many chances were on target for Fletcher versus when they were with Amorim. And if they continue this, they'll break the unfortunate finishing that they've been having this season. I mean, they had an on-target XG of 2 last game, which is really strong compared to the less than 1 under Amorim with Leeds. 10 shots on target under Fletcher's United. Very strong. Hopefully they continue this with Carrick.
All right, let's take a look at Pep and his squad right now, what the form for Man City has been recently.
And it's been a little shaky. It's been 3 matches in a row of a little bit of volatility. A surprise draw against Brighton, one against Chelsea. Wouldn't say necessarily a surprise against Sunderland, considering what they did against Arsenal. But it looked like they were humming again. It looked like they started the season off with a lot of volatility, and then they finally found their groove, and that form has kind of just disappeared in the last couple of weeks. Now, what happened in that Chelsea game where, I mean, unlike most Manchester City games, they got outchanced. What happened was Chelsea destroyed them at the end of the game. City were slow, didn't take their chances, didn't create the chances that they're capable of creating. And then Chelsea pounced at the end. City had only had an on-target XG of 0.3. That's super uncharacteristic of a Pep Guardiola team. So what was Chelsea doing that made this happen? Well, they stacked the middle of the field. They barely were able to get any connection points off. They had to do a lot of work in their own end. But they stacked the middle. As you can see with all these passing networks on the right side of the screen, they barely made any passes out wide. They kept everyone super tight. And when you look at Manchester City's on the left, they didn't do anything out wide. They were stuck in the middle. If Pep doesn't have the wide guys against United, they might struggle. This is a build-up with Ryan Cherki, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Reinders, Rodri, and there's just nothing out wide. So maybe look to see if they start with a similar profile. This could go United's way. Now, if they start with Doku or Semenyo or the wide guys, this might look a little bit different, and this build-up changed against Brighton, which we'll take a look at in a sec. Now, when we look at that build-up versus Brighton, things, as you can see, look very different. The wide guys are back. They're not passing through the middle as much. Now, Brighton tried to do a similar thing as Chelsea, sit back, but they weren't as compact. These guys are a little bit spread out through the sides. If United want to be able to get some points here, they're going to have to be super compact centrally and block those middle passing lanes that Manchester City are really capable of using.
Okay, now let's take a look at the predictions. First is our model, which predicts a 2-1 win to Manchester City. Each of us has our own prediction. I see Manchester winning 2-0.
And I see a 2-2 draw with Michael Carrick coming in, United parking the bus right in the middle of the field, but hitting them on the counter. City will still score through that Manchester United defense. We'll get a 2-2 thriller Saturday morning.
Time will tell what happens. We will certainly be watching intently during the derby.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. Check us out at pitch-analytics.com. Follow us on Twitter for all the latest updates.